Let me go into the 5 most common frauds that I see when evaluating offices. And again, these are mostly the doctors just don't even know they're committing the fraud. One was the SOAP notes I was talking about, not having 2 evaluation and management codes. I can't tell you how many offices I run into when I do practice evaluations. I'd say easily 8 out of 10 offices do not have 2 evaluation codes in the SOAP notes for a regular visit. In other words, they could ask for all that money back, all of it, all those visits, all that money back. And it happens. I'm surprised it doesn't happen more than what it does, because how bad a lot of these notes are. Paying the patient for transportation, not the service. I've talked about that. In other words, giving them tokens like the bus or taxi. So you would pay the taxi service. See, you'd pay the Uber, stuff like that. Unnecessary treatment, not documented or supported by periodic testing and not quantified. And that's real common. We see a lot of doctors who are bad at documentation, and they just treat. They just keep treating, until finally the insurance company puts a halt on it and sends them to the IME to stop it. That's the classic doctor who doesn't know what he's doing, doesn't have a good business. I see a large percentage of chiropractors that I say they try to get rich on one patient. That's what I said. That's what I call it. And those are essentially chiropractors that don't know how to get business. They don't know how to get or keep business. And so when they do get a, infrequent PI patient, they bill the hell out of them in all the different ways. So unnecessary treatment, not documented. So even if they have the problem, you don't have the proper documentation, that's fraud, whether it's in the examination, re-examination, or the daily visit with the SOAP note. That's fraud. So, and this is not complicated stuff. I mean, chiropractors only typically use bill for two examination procedures out of roughly 5. And the SOAP notes aren't that complicated. When you break it down, they're really not. And then the chiropractor typically only uses 20 diagnoses and maybe 5 therapy codes. That's it. So this is not rocket science. This is not complicated. But for some reason, chiropractors complicate the hell out of it. Paying a marketer for referrals, that was the one that I told you. I've seen that. Or paying somebody else for referrals, and if you get X amount of referrals for X amount of money, and well, that alone's illegal. But then now you don't know how much is that guy paying. What kind of kickback is that guy paying to the attorney? Is he giving half of it to the attorney? See, now you're in a real, you're going to be on the front of the news, your local news station that night. And then, of course, the fee structure fraud. When you're constantly billing more for PI patients than cash patients or insurance patients. So there's a lot of fraud going on out there. Most of it's not known. Most of it's not just, it's not doctors trying to deceive. The real deception fraud is billing for services you didn't do and billing for patients you didn't see. That's the big fraud. But all these other types of fraud will get you into trouble. And you go, well, what will determine when it will be charged? Well, it's their choice. So how does this typically come along? How does this fraud typically get out? Well, typically, disgruntled an employee will file a complaint on you if they know something, or they'll ask for a small sample of your records. And then they'll compare your records and they'll see, like some of these points that I just pointed out, like not having 2 E&Ms on a SOAP note. And then, maybe they only requested 1 file or 5 files. And then they evaluate it and they see, well, wait a minute, there's problems here. And then next thing you know, they're requesting, all your files for that particular insurance or something like that. And that's when it's going downhill fast. That's when you're in big trouble fast. But that's typically how it starts: a disgruntled employee or having one of your files. That's why you just don't want to randomly send in files. I mean, when they want notes, you want to know very specifically what they want, as narrow to detailed as possible. and only send those. That's it. Because it's like a fishing expedition. They start seeing anything else, that's totally reason enough for them. And there's a lot, unfortunately, it's like I said, I go into 8 out of 10 chiropractic offices and they're committing fraud and don't even know it in one of these categories. So, what will determine if you will be charged? Well, it's up to them, but generally, the more money that's involved, that's going to be a big deal, and the more people involved. So generally, if you're what's considered a small fish, they don't fool with you. But if you're talking about a lot of money, if you're doing a lot of money, you're doing a million. In other words, you're way over the actuarial scale of a chiropractor. So, say average chiropractor sees 107 visits, makes X amount of money, and they look at your billing and you're doing $1 million a year. Well, you better make sure you've got all your T's crossed and your I's dotted. So that's one of the ways they'll look at you. So go, wait a minute, this person's way out of line compared. What are they doing? That's what they'll do. So you just got to make sure you got all this done when you're a high performer.